The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Good morning, Hoop Ballers. This is William Harris. Happy to be with you today on this April 16th edition of DFS Today. Normally, I'm joined by David Minkoff, but he has no voice right now, so I'm rolling solo with you guys. Get well soon, David. On this April 16th edition, we have 11 games on this Friday. We're going to cover 10 games because the one game is in the early slate. That's the Pacers and the Jazz. They play at 3. So they're not going to be in this slate. So I'm excited to get it started with you guys, and I hope everyone has a great day of DFS. Before we get started, let's start with the reason why we're here. You know, we have sponsors, so let's give them a shout out. The main guys we're looking at is mybookie.ag. You have to support them. If you love betting on sports, you got to check out mybookie.ag. Ever since I started this podcast, people have been asking me about betting tips. You know, it's always fantasy, DFS, betting, who you got, Lakers, Clippers, etc. And the place where you need to go check this out is mybookie.ag. Their reputation is rock solid. They have the best odds, contests, and promotions in the business. It's the only place I trust to handle my NBA-related bets. You know me, you know Hoop Ball. Hoop Ball is we give out our stamp approval. If we're going to give out our stamp approval, it's going to be to a trusted site, and that is mybookie.ag. You got to be the best at what you do, and MyBookie is the best sports book out there, period. It's simple. This is the main thing you need to do. Sign up, enter the promo code HoopBall, and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. You can't beat that. Into that promo code HoopBall. Head over to MyBookie if you want to add a little excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Okay, now we're going to start this off on the 7 o'clock slate with the Clippers and the 76ers. Starting with the injury report for the Clippers, we have Patrick Beverley is out, Serge Ibaka is still out, and Kawhi Leonard is questionable. That's the big one. For the Sixers, Tobias Harris is questionable with the right knee soreness. George Hill is still out. Dwight Howard is questionable. So that will change a few things. And obviously, you're going to have to stay tuned to the lineup to see if Tobias and Kawhi are going to play because that affects a lot. Starting with the Clippers, the best value for me for the Clippers, if Kawhi plays, you always can put him in your lineup at 9,700. You just need to see if he's going to be limited or not. If he's limited or out, you know, that obviously changes everything. So we won't know until tip-off or close to. The good thing is it's a 7 o'clock game, so you'll know set your lineup accordingly. Paul George is at 9,100. If Kawhi is out, he's a lock to put in your lineup. He's been playing incredible. He's been ramping up for the season. He's playing like a guy valued over 10,000. And he's only at 9,100. So that's a great, great play if Kawhi is out. And the only other player that I'm secure in playing for the Clippers is Ivica Zubac at 5,700. He's been putting up some great numbers lately, his last 3 games. And that's mainly because Ibaka is out and they're giving him a few more minutes. So at 5,700, he could probably get you a double-double. And I think, you know, he's got to go up against Embiid. They're going to use him. You know, they have to because he's pretty much the only big body they have. Cousins is out there. He's still rusty. He just re-signed on his 10-day contract. He re-upped it, but he's not getting heavy minutes yet. He was getting 8, 6, and 15 minutes. So he'll probably stay around that 15-minute mark. So Zubac is going to be in there, and it just depends on, you know, how offensive they're going to be running because with Kawhi out, that's just more shots for everyone else. And that's why those 3 are the only players I can consider in this lineup. On the Philadelphia side, obviously you have Joel Embiid at 10,500. Pretty much a lock to be guaranteed to hit value or exceed value. So that goes without saying. Ben Simmons, if Tobias Harris is out, I have been avoiding Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris because with Embiid back, he dropped their production dramatically. But if Tobias is out, I think you can play Ben Simmons at 7,800. His last game, he had 43 DraftKings points, almost had a double-double with 17 and 9 boards. So keep an eye out on Tobias Harris. Even if he's limited, that will give me relief and, satisfaction. I'll feel good to play Ben Simmons in that manner because Tobias is averaging over 20 points a game, and that production has to be spread around. Everyone will get a boost. And you can look at Furkan Korkmaz also for Philadelphia if Tobias Harris is out. He's valued only at 3,800. His last 3 games, 41, 29, and 22 DraftKings points. And, he seems to be getting the best boost with, on the offensive end. He'll get the best bump if Tobias is out. Him and Ben Simmons, that's who I would look at. And he's valued at a great price at 3,800. So that's worth the risk if you have more expensive guys in your lineup. And that is that for that matchup. For the next game, we have the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Washington Wizards. So with that, we have the Pelicans are favorite 1.5. The over under is 241.5. So starting with the injury report, the Pelicans have Nickeil Alexander-Walker is out. Lonzo Ball is probable. Josh Hart is out. Washington Wizards only have Thomas Bryant on their injury report as out because he's been out the whole season. Starting with the Pelicans, you can look at Zion Williamson. He's priced at $10,000. His price is steadily going up and up and up. His production has been going up and up as well. So right now, it's still worth it to play him, but you got to keep an eye on that price point because it's getting a little high for my liking. But he still is the main focal point of this offense, and they're going to need him. Especially if Lonzo Ball is out, that would be especially even more. But if Lonzo Ball plays, you still can put Zion in your lineup and feel comfortable with that. And then you have Brandon Ingram at 8,500. He's putting up some great numbers. Last 3 games, 45, 57, and 45 DraftKings points. So that's very close to Zion, and he's priced 1,500 lower. So you can't go wrong with that. So the 2 studs. I wouldn't trust playing Lonzo right now at 7,500 because with that hip, you don't know how much he's going to play yet. So if you hear more information, you can keep an eye out on that. But for right now, I'll pause on him. But the only other guy I'm looking at is Najee Marshall at 3,800. That's the rookie. He's actually priced at 4,000. Yep, 4,000. That's the rookie. His last game, he had 34 DraftKings points. And he had 14 real NBA points, 9 boards. And the game before that was a dud, but the game before that, he had 15 and 7. So, and he was in the starting lineup the last game, and that's where he was able to get that production off of 33 minutes. So if you hear that he's going to start again, that makes him a valuable person that you could sneak into your lineup at 4,000. And I think he's got a good matchup against the Wizards in this high-scoring, what should be a high-scoring affair. Now, if you look on the Wizards side, you got Russell Westbrook, obviously, at 11,000. He's been the fantasy monster himself lately. I mean, just out of control, averaging almost 70 points the last 2 games. Easily can get you in the 60s, always can hit value. He's one of the few safer players that you could just over 10,000 and you can just put in your lineup and not even think anything about it. I think you also can look at Bradley Beal. He's at 8,900. He dropped off for a while there. He was banged up. But his last 2 games, he's gotten 48 and 41 DraftKings points. And in the real game, 34 and 31 actual points. That's the Bradley Beal we're used to and expect. So at 8,900, you're still getting a little bit of a discount because of when he was banged up, how down he was. The Wizards are always interesting. Rui Hachimura was on a roll there, but now he's fallen off. So you can't look at him. You can look at Davis Bertans now at 4,000. since that's such a low price point, his last 2 games, 22 and 27.5 DraftKings points. That's valuable at 4,000. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not sexy, but you have that. But the guy that is sexy and fun and all that, don't use that against me later, guys, is Daniel Gafford. He is the center that, can put up the best production for this team. They have 3 centers, in which when you have 3 centers, you have no center. But he's recently acquired from the Bulls, and he is their best center. And once his minutes continue to ramp up, he should easily be putting up double-doubles. They can use him against Steven Adams. And I think you just, especially if he's starting, lock him in your lineup. He banged up his shoulder a game or 2 ago, but he should play. He's healthy, and he's the most talented guy. At 3,300, it's worth the risk, especially if you hear before tip-off that he is starting. All right. And next game we're going to go to is the Detroit Pistons versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. And let's see. Detroit has is valued at -7.5, and the over-under for the game is 215.5. For Detroit, on the injury report, you have Wayne Ellington out for rest, Jeremy Grant out for right knee injury management, Corey Joseph out, Rodney McGruder out, Mason Plumlee out, Dennis Smith Jr. out. That is insane. On the OKC side, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is still out, Mike Muscala is out, and Alexei Pokusevski is out. That's a lot, especially for that Detroit Pistons side. With that being said, you have to look at Josh Jackson. Yes, we're going down deep. Josh Jackson, because the last game Jeremy Grant sat out, Josh Jackson got 40.5 DraftKings points. So that makes him very valuable with Jeremy Grant out and including all those other people that are out. So Josh Jackson is valued at 5,300. I think he is a steal, and he should be able to put up that production because there's not many other players out there that can. I think you can look at Saddiq Bey at 4,800. His last 3 games, hitting value, playing very well. And like I said, with Jeremy Grant out, it's just more production for him and to go along. And he's their first-round draft pick. So they're going to want him to get a lot of shots and keep developing. I think you also can look at Killian Hayes at 3,500. I mean, that's a steal of a price. That's their lottery pick, first-round pick. They had 3 first-round picks: Killian Hayes, Saddiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart. And I think you could play all 3 of them in this matchup. Killian Hayes had 22 DraftKings points last game. You just need to see how they're kind of babying him with his injury that he's coming back from. But if he's going to get 25 minutes, he's a lock for your lineup, especially at 3,500. And like I mentioned with Mason Plumlee out, I think that makes Isaiah Stewart an incredible play at 4,400. He should be in line to get all the rebounds and a couple of putbacks. So he should have a good game where he could possibly get a double-double. So that is it for the Pistons and OKC side. Next game, moving right along, we're at the 7:30 slate, is the Charlotte Hornets at the Brooklyn Nets. On the Brooklyn Nets side of things, Lamarcus Aldridge, if you hadn't heard the news, he recently, yesterday, he retired. He announced his retirement. He has a heart condition. He felt it in his last game or 2, and he said it was one of the scariest things he's ever experienced. And so he's going to be retired right now. So we sending well wishes out to Lamarcus Aldridge. He seems to be in good spirits and healthy right now. He said he's okay right now, but he doesn't want anything to happen in the future. So I'm guessing he's taking the advice of his doctors. But that's unfortunate because the Nets were on pace, to be in the championship. So I know that's tough for him. Chris Chiozza is out. Spencer Dinwiddie obviously is out. James Harden is out. Tyler Johnson is out. For the Hornets, LaMelo Ball is still out for the season. Devontae Graham is a surprise out with a left quad injury. Gordon Hayward is still out. Malik Monk out. Brad Wanamaker is questionable. That's bigger than you think. PJ Washington is doubtful. So tonight's slate, if you haven't noticed the trend, is injuries. So There's a lot of guys that can fill those slots, and we're going to cover them. For the Nets side, you have Kyrie Irving at 9,900, and KD. I'll go ahead and group them together at 9,400. Those guys are going to take on the load. You're safe to play either one of them because James Harden is out. So it's just to your liking or position need. But I think KD is the better play at 9,400. He's ramping back up, but he hasn't played since April 13th, so he should be good. His last game, he had 31 points, and that was 42 DraftKings points. So he's going to be the guy that, is safer because Kyrie, he scored 60 DraftKings points the last game, but the game before, 23. Game before, 39. So KD is not going to be in the 20s, but Kyrie can also hit the 60. So it's just a matter of your position need, really. I wouldn't play both of them, but you're just going to have to pick and choose which one you like for that. And with Harden out and the rest of the guys on the team right now are just filling a role pretty much. I don't feel safe playing anyone else. So it's just you're picking up one of the big 2 out of 3 that are there. On the Charlotte Hornets side, you have to look at Terry Rozier. With Devontae Graham out, normally I'm like trying to decide over Devontae Graham or Terry Rozier. And Devontae Graham's always cheaper, and they have similar production. But with Devontae Graham out and Brad Wanamaker questionable, Brad Wanamaker is the backup point guard, that just leaves a huge amount of minutes and production for Terry Rozier to fill at 8,100. And I think that's a great play for you. I think Miles Bridges at 6,400, I normally don't like playing him. But like I said, with Devontae Graham out, P.J. Washington as doubtful, Gordon Hayward obviously is still out. That leaves a lot of production for Miles Bridges. The only other player I can look at is Jaylen McDaniels. He burst on the scene a couple of games ago with 38 and 40 DraftKings points. He's been his production has leveled off quite pretty much halfway in his last 3 games, but he's still getting the minutes. So his price point has went up also. So you'll be paying for it at 5,200. But with all those guys injured, he's a guy that you can use in your lineup, and it might not be, the most fun thing ever, but he's going to get the minutes. That's kind of more of a risk play. It was better when he was under the 4K mark. Moving on to the next game is Orlando Magic at the Toronto Raptors. You start with Mo Bamba. For the Orlando Magic, Mo Bamba is questionable. Michael Carter-Williams is out. Otto Porter Jr. is out. For the Toronto Raptors, everyone is out pretty much. OG Anunoby for rest. DeAndre Bembry is out. Kyle Lowry is out. Pascal Siakam is out. And Gary Trent is doubtful. So, that's the bulk of their team right there. That's tough. So we can start with the Raptors on that one since their big guys are out. That leaves Fred VanVleet, who hasn't played since April 2nd. It's his first game back. He was out battling injury, and he had a suspension for his last game. That's why he missed that one. Otherwise, he would have been back. So he's probably 100%. The fact that he is worth 7,900 on this slate, I think it makes it worth it because everyone is injured. That production has to come from somewhere. The next talented guy on his team is Chris Boucher, and he's not an offensive scorer like that. He's looking to get boards, rebounds, and blocks and putbacks. So VanVleet is a great play. I think Flynn, Malachi Flynn, you can look at him because Lowry is out. I think he would fill in some of those minutes, also because OG is out. He had 39 and 37 DraftKings points his last game, so that could bring up some of that offensive production. And normally I stay away from Chris Boucher because he is hit or miss, and the coach, Nick Nurse, doesn't really love to play him a ton of minutes, like we all would want to see. But like I said, with everyone out, I think that makes Boucher a little more playable. The only thing hurting him is Kim Birch, the newly acquired center from the Magic that they released, is on the team now. And his first 2 games with the team, 27 and 29 DraftKings points. That was his last 2 games. And he's at 3,800. So, I mean, that's almost a minimum price for he started last game. He could easily start again this game. So that's someone you can look at. Just pay attention to see if he's going to start again. But I don't see why he wouldn't when he played so well. And, I mean, he's clearly better than Aaron Baines. Another guy you can look at is Freddie Gillespie. It was on April 14th. He played 19 minutes, had 26 DraftKings points. He just had an all-around good game with 9 points, 8 boards, and 3 blocks. So with Kim Birch moving to center, that moved Chris Boucher to the power forward. So Freddie Gillespie can play backup minutes to Kim Birch and Chris Boucher. So he's 3,100. That's pretty much a minimum player who put up 26 DraftKings points this last game. That's how you win money in DraftKings. So keep an eye out on him also. And so we're going to move to the next slate now. That will be the Denver Nuggets. This is the 8 o'clock game. Denver Nuggets at the Houston Rockets. For the Denver Nuggets side, unfortunately, Jamal Murray is out for the season. He's the only injury right now they have listed. For the Rockets, we have Daniel House Jr. is out, Eric Gordon, Sterling Brown, DJ Augustine are all out. We can start on the Denver Nuggets side. You have Nikola Jokic at 10,900. Always a great play. I mean, I think he's front runner for MVP in my opinion. I mean, it just goes without saying he's just an incredible play. And Michael Porter Jr. at 7,400. Normally you could look at him and be like, I don't know, should I play him, should I not? But I believe with Jamal Murray's injury, that's just more production for him. And that makes him an easier play. He should, fill that role. And he's been playing well with Jamal Murray and with the addition of Aaron Gordon. So with Jamal Murray out, that's just more production for Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray was averaging 21 points a game. So that those points are going to be filled by someone. And I think it's Michael Porter Jr. And I think it's otherwise mentioned Aaron Gordon, who is at a steal of a price. He was priced similar to Michael Porter Jr., but his production had dropped off because he was, getting accommodated to the team. And he's at 5,700. I mean, that's pretty much a lock of the day because his minutes are going to go up. His offensive opportunities will go up. And, in this game, Denver is favored by 7.5 points, and over-under is 222. So it should be a good, fun game for Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon. On the Houston Rockets side, you have Christian Wood at 8,300. His last 2 games, he's gotten 53 and 54 DraftKings points. That's tremendous productivity for someone in the 8,000 range. So it's no reason to shy away from that. He's going to have, he's got a lot of talent on the other side, but someone has to score for the Rockets also. So I think he should have a fine game. You have John Wall at 8,200. A lot of people thought he was going to rest at the end of the season, sit out a lot, but he wants to play. He said he sat out for 2 years. He wants to play. And his last game, he had 52 DraftKings points. He had 1 dud before that, but the 2 games before that, 46 and 56. So John Wall is a safe play at 8,200, especially without Jamal Murray in there. He's not going to have to guard as much on the other end, in my opinion, because he's playing against Monte Morris and Campazzo, and they are not offensive juggernauts. And I didn't mention them on the Denver side because neither one of them are offensive juggernauts, like I just said. But now they're splitting the production. I think they're going to get some assists and some numbers like that. But right now, that production is probably going to be in the lower, teens, in the high teens, high 20s, in that range. And so until they decide, okay, one of you guys are getting 30 minutes and the other is getting 15 to 20, then we have something. But for right now, I would stay away from both of them. Other than John Wall, I think you can look at Kevin Porter Jr. at 6,800. He should play a lot in this game. It's a great price point for him. It's pretty much what it should be. But the game before last, he had 54 DraftKings points. So at 6,800, that's great. He can also get 30. But, it's just a hit or miss thing, kind of like Jason Tate, but he's more of a guarantee than Tate, in my opinion. Another guy you may overlook is Kelly Olynyk at 6,500. His last game, he had 50 DraftKings points. he's been consistent ever since he came to the Rockets. They seem to really like him and how he fits in with the team. Not a sexy play at all, but, solid, safe play at 6,500 for Kelly Olynyk. Next game, we're going to move on down to the Chicago Bulls versus the Memphis Grizzlies. And they're at Chicago. Let's see. The over-under is 227. It's a pick'em game. Zach LaVine is out, unfortunately, with health and safety protocols. That's a tough blow for the Bulls. They really need him, but that's how it goes. Thomas Satoransky is probable, and that's all for the Bulls. For Memphis, we have Brandon Clark is questionable. That's important. DeAnthony Melton is out. Justice Winslow is out. Jaren Jackson Jr. is still out, unfortunately. We can start on the Bulls side with Vucevic at 9,700. I always think he's a great play as long as he's under 10,000. You can't beat that, really. And especially with Zach LaVine out, that's just more production for Vucevic. I think you can look. Another guy that I think you can look at is Daniel Tice at 3,700. He's the backup center. He can play a little power forward also. But his last 3 games, 32, 25, and 29 DraftKings points. That's for a guy. You might say that's not amazing. Why are you mentioning him? The second guy on the Bulls. He's priced at 3,700. And those games were with Zach LaVine. So that should just be more production for him. Even if it's not more, if it's equal, that's great value at 3,700. He's one of the better players under 4,000. For everyone else, it's kind of a wait and see how the rotation is going to plan out with Zach LaVine out. Kobe White will get a bump up. Pat Williams will get a bump up. And Thaddeus Young will get a bump up. But I think you might want to watch and see how this game flows before you just pick one of those 3. And you can look at Satoransky also. Also, he's just probable. So I try to stay away from guys that are a little banged up. He had back spasms. But yeah, Vucevic and Daniel Tice are the guarantees for me for the Bulls. For the Memphis Grizzlies side, I think you always look at Jonas Valanciunas. He's under 8,000. He's 7,900. He can put up the production of a guy at 10,000. Like Vucevic, he can put up Vucevic numbers for $2,000 less almost. I tend to shy away from John Morant because he's an incredible player, but as far as DraftKings points, they are normally in the 30s, and you want a little higher than that. He's guaranteed to be in the 30s at minimum, but I want someone with a higher ceiling. And if, like we mentioned, Brandon Clark, if he's out, that makes Dylan Brooks more playable at 5,500. And that also makes Kyle Anderson more playable at 5,900. But right now, if Brandon Clark plays, I think you can skip over those 2 guys and, just go with JV. And that's pretty much the only one you can feel safe with right now. So moving to the next game, the Miami Heat at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Right now for the Miami Heat, you have Andre Iguodala is questionable. Victor Oladipo is out. Gabe Vincent probable. Minnesota Timberwolves, Malik Beasley is out. Jalen Noel is questionable. Starting on the Miami side, it's only 2 guys I trust right now, and that's Jimmy Butler at 9,200. It's a fair price for him. His last 3 games, you want more from him. But, he's the key focal point on the team. And with Oladipo out, he has the range and, ability to do more whenever he's needed. So, and he doesn't have a tough matchup at all. Minnesota's one of the worst defenses in the league. So it should be a fine matchup. That we don't have an over-under right now, but just stay tuned to that. I'm sure Miami is favored by 6+, but we don't have it right now set in stone. Bam Adebayo at 8,400. He's going to have a tough matchup against Karl Anthony Towns. He's been scoring in the 30s lately, but his last 4 games. But we know his last 4 games before that, he's been averaging over in the 40s. So it's just a matter of how you feel about this game. If we get a over-under line that's even bigger than we expect, you can shy away from all the heat in this matchup, and I wouldn't fault you. I don't feel comfortable playing Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Goran Dragic, or Kendrick Nunn. So I think those two are the only ones you can consider. If Dragic was out, by all means play Kendrick Nunn. But with Dragic in there, it's like everyone is, sharing the pie a little too much for me. On the Minnesota side, you have Karl-Anthony Towns at 10,700. His last 4 games, last 6 games, he's been over 50 DraftKings points with a 70-pointer in there. I mean, that's pretty much as safe as you can go. So we all know Cat. So get him in your lineup if you can fit him in there. It's a huge slate, so you don't have to force anything. But he's a guaranteed 50-plus guy. Then you can look at Anthony Edwards at 7,500. He's scoring in the 30s and 40s. Just a safe play. The rookie is really coming on, making a case to get that Rookie of the Year award. Unfortunately, LaMelo Ball, with his injury, he was the front runner. But now it looks like Anthony Edwards, if he's not penalized too much, Anthony Edwards will win that. So 7,500 is a good price. We were worried about Malik Beasley coming back, but he got injured. So that makes Anthony Edwards still safe to play. And I think you also can look at D'Angelo Russell at 6,500. His last game, 2 out of the last 3 games, very good production. And they're still easing him in. He's still playing in the 20-minute range per night. So his last game was 23 minutes. If that ramps up to 25 to 30, I think you have something there. He first came back on April 5th, and they've been consistently keeping him in the 20s. But he's had a couple 40-point games in there, and I think as long as his game doesn't get too out of hand, which will help that D'Angelo Russell is there because they need his production. He's kind of like a Kemba Walker type of a play because Kemba's normally in the 6,000s. You just got to worry about minutes and, minutes basically because his talent is there. It's just a matter of how much they're going to baby him. So, yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell all get consideration. And you can easily not choose anyone from this game also. So it's funny how that works, but we have such a huge slate, it's not going to kill you either way. Next game at 8:30, starting at 8:30 is Portland at the San Antonio Spurs. The over-under is 230.5. Looks like a toss-up game. For the injury report, let's go over that. Portland, Zach Collins out for the year, obviously. The Spurs have Gorgie Bean. It's questionable. Trey Lyles is out. On the Portland side, you can look at Damian Lillard at 9,500. His production has been kind of up and down, especially with C.J. McCollum back. He hadn't had a huge game lately, but he 2 out of the last 3 games, he scored over 48, and he scored 50. But he had a dud in there with 20. But you can always trust Dame for the most part. He's got a lot of point guards in this matchup. I don't think any of them can slow him down. It's just a matter of his will and if they need him to go off. I overpassed C.J. McCollum because he's scoring in the 30s a little too much for me, and at 8,000, that's a little high. Like we just mentioned, Anthony Edwards, and he is at 7,500. So he's cheaper, and his production is better right now than C.J. McCollum. So I don't think you can touch McCollum right now. I think you could look at Norman Powell at 5,800. He's been fitting in nicely with his new team. And at 5,800, even if he has a down type of a game, it's still okay. It's not going to kill your lineup, but he can get you in the high 30s any given game, just depending on the matchup. So, I mean, it's not a lock of the day type of play, but he's pretty safe to play in my opinion. And I think you can look at Yusuf Nurkic. He's ramping his production back up. Minutes are slowly creeping up. So just keep an eye on if he's going to be limited or not. But at 5,500, he can easily provide great value for you. He's sneakily coming back into play, and I think he'll be a big factor in the playoffs. So they might be just, taking it easy on him until he gets to the playoffs. But he obviously hurts in his cancer with coming back, because otherwise Cantor was getting all those minutes, all the rebounds in the world. So, but if you hear anything about Nurkic sitting out, then you could look at Enes Kanter at 6,100. But if Nurkic plays, you can't even think twice about him. Moving to the Portland side, I think you can look at DeMar DeRozan, obviously. He's priced at 7,900, and that's a lot better. Early in the season, he was in the 8,000s, the mid 8,000s, and that's a lot for him. But he was hitting value. But lately, he's been dropping off a tiny bit, but he's starting to ramp back up. I think we can also look at Dejante Murray at 7,000. He's been, he's a starting point guard for the Spurs. They're going to need him. They're going to need someone to go up against Dame. It always is sketchy for me to play him because they have so many point guards. They have him, Derek White, Patty Mills. There's just so many guards on this team. But he's usually putting up good production. Other than that, like I said, a lot of the guys cannibalize each other, so I can look at, Jakob Poeltl was playing great early in the season, but he's kind of slowed down. But you can take a look at Drew Eubanks. He's the backup center. His last 2 games, 31 and 25 DraftKings points. His last game, he had 4 blocks. That's incredible. Pop is going to love that and want to get the young guy more minutes. So priced at 3,300, that's an incredible type of a steal of a play. As long as he gets those same minutes, you got to love it. Next game, you got to go to the Knicks and Dallas Mavericks. For the Knicks side, Dallas is favored by 5.5. Over-under is 212. On the Knicks, you got to look at Julius Randle at 9,600. All-star year, obviously. Last 2 games, over 50 DraftKings points. Always a good idea to have him in your lineup. You can fit him in there. He's the focal point of this team, and no one else is really stepping up. Other than that, it's just a shared committee pretty much. Everyone is pretty much healthy, so it makes it scary to play anyone else. RJ Barrett was ramping up, playing great, but he's been dropping off lately. In his last 2 games, he's had some stinkers. So at 6,200, you can't really touch him. On the Mavs side, you can look at Luka Doncic, and a lot of people see that name, and it's like, obviously I have to play him. I have to put him in my lineup. He's one of the high-priced guys. But for the most part, he's been averaging in the 40s and the low 50s for quite some while now. And, I mean, at 10,800, I believe he's the highest-priced guy on the slate. He's second to Jokic. He's not putting up Jokic numbers right now. He's playing very great, very, very good. But 10,800 is still overpriced for him. And like Santino always says, he doesn't like to play guys against the Knicks because the Knicks have one of the top 3 defenses in the league. It might be ranked number 1 now. I think I saw a stat on that. So that's going to be a tough matchup for him. I think you can look at Kristaps Porzingis also, though. His production has been great. He's been putting up the same type of numbers as Luka, and he's at 8,800. So that's $2,000 cheaper. And it is a revenge game for him. So someone's got to score on this Mavericks team. I think it'll be tough for Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Richardson, Tim Hardaway. So I think Porzingis is the safe guy, in my opinion, on who you should put in your lineup. That covers the 10-game slate. Including, we talked about the Pacers and Jazz is at 3. So other than that, we have the 10-game slate. And it's injury filled, injury loaded, but it should be a lot of fun. It's whenever you have a lot of injuries, it makes you do a little more prep work and finding those steals of the day. A lot of you guys like for us to go over our top value guys, mid-tier guys, and lower price guys at the end of the show. So let me hit those real quick. My favorite high price guy, let's say, is over 8,000. I think I would have to go with Terry Rozier at 8,100. Like I said, with Devontae Graham out, even the backup Brad Wanamaker out, PJ Washington out, Gordon Hayward out, all the production should go to him. Early in the season, he was having 40-point games. I think he can easily have that again today. He's my main one that just really stood out to me. If you want to force me to pick someone else, I could say Paul George at 9,100. If Kawhi is out, which is questionable right now. Paul George is still at 9,100. He's been in that same position that Rozier was in with everyone out. The production goes to him. For my mid-tier guys, if you want to say 4,500 to 8,000, I think you can look at Aaron Gordon, like we mentioned with Jamal Murray out. A lot more of the production and responsibility would go to him, and he's priced way below what he normally would be priced at. That's what helps him a lot. I think Josh Jackson on Detroit, also at 5,300, is a great play. Wendell Carter Jr. at 6,200 is a great play. You see, I get to pick 3 players because, no one's here to argue with me. But those 3 are really great plays. For my under 4,500 guys, my steal of the night guys, I believe you can look at Furkan Korkmaz at 3,800. That's if Tobias Harris is out. Keep an eye out on that. Daniel Gafford at 3,300. I believe in his talent. Even if he's not getting the huge minutes yet, I believe in his talent. I think you can look at Gary Harris Jr. at 3,600. Last game, he had a great game for the he's not on the Nuggets anymore. He's on the Orlando Magic. He scored 15 actual points, had 6 assists. I mean, that's the best game he's had in a long time. And at 3,600, that's a steal. He had 29 DraftKings points. And he shouldn't be rested. It's not a back-to-back or anything. So he played 30 minutes. I think he moved Dwayne Bacon out of the rotation pretty much. And he's going to take all those minutes from here on. So get Gary Harris in your lineup while you can. You can look at Freddie Gillespie on the Raptors. Also, yes, that's a real player. I didn't just make that name up at 3,100. And those are the values of the night for me, in my opinion. I like to say thank you all for joining me. Had a great time with you on the show, doing it solo. First time doing it solo. It's harder than you would think. I thought it would just be fun, but you lose your breath there, just doing all the talking on your own. But that was fun, guys. Hopefully David will be back next week and be all fully recovered, have his voice back. Hopefully I'll have my voice back, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of DFS Today. I'm William Harris. You can follow me on Twitter at WilliamIsBill. Had a great time with you. Good luck in your DFS. Peace.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.
Your business may be small, but you've got big goals. Brother Laser Printers can help you succeed, no matter the space, task, or budget. From crisp black and white to vivid full color, our printers offer affordable quality you can trust. Plus, fast printing and high page yields make them ideal for home offices and shared workspaces. It's no wonder Brother is the #1 retail brand in laser printer unit sales in the U.S. With Brother at your side, go from small to do it all. Shop now at brother-usa.com/laser.